Hey, Shalom, this is the brother Abaya here. Before I get started, like always, I want to give all praises and glory to Yahweh, Bahashem, Yahweh Shah, Bahashem, Rakhahakwadash. Double honors to my teachers, the elder apostles of Great Millstone. And Shalom to the hopeful elect. I want to touch on, I'm going to title this, The Dutiful Task. The Dutiful Task. When you go into the word dutiful, in the etymon it says, performing the duties required by social or legal obligation. All right, obedient, respectful, and us that have been called into this ministry, we have taken an oath. We have made an obligation, not just to ourselves, but most importantly to our power. All right, to the brothers that are around us, to be dutiful. All right, to perform the duties required. All right, by the deity, the person, the power that hired us into this labor force. All right, and no matter what seasonal changes that may happen, all right, you look at a farmer, somebody that tends to the land. You look at a homesteader. All right, no matter what happens during the seasons, you can't get weak. You can't get lackadaisical. You can't forget to do certain things. You can't put off from day to day. Because if a person that has land and, a farm or a homestead, and they're not tending to their crops, they're not tending to their cattle, they have to do the same thing every single day, all right, to their cattle, to their crops, to their land, to make sure that the land will produce and they'll be able to reap, all right, in due season. They can't have excuses, oh, well, when it's time of snow or this happened, so, now my motivation to do certain things has been brought low. I'm having a bad day or whatever the excuse may be. No matter what comes their way, the work must be done because they made an obligation to that land to take care of that land, to take care of them chickens, to take care of them cows, to take care of those, to manage those pigs, turkeys, all right, and whatever else they may have on the land, the horses, okay, and all their crops. And if they don't do that, if they don't maintain their obligation, then that land is going to go to waste. And the work that they did will be for naught. It will be for vanity, because nothing will come out of it. All right. First scripture I want to get is Ecclesiastes, the 11th chapter. Because we have a dutiful task set before us that we must uphold. This is Ecclesiastes chapter 11, verse 1. It says, cast thy bread upon the waters, for thou shalt find it after many days. Give a portion to 7, and also to 8, for thou knowest not what evil shall be upon the earth. If the clouds be full of rain, they empty themselves upon the earth. And if the tree shall fall toward the south, or toward the north, in the place where the tree falleth, there it shall be. Yeah, we don't know what evil is going to come upon the earth, so you must stay consistent and diligent in your work, so that no matter what evil comes upon the earth, no matter what change happens on the earth, no matter what curveball is thrown, you're still going to reap because you've been, consistent. You've been dutiful at that task. All right. So whatever you've been sowing towards, you're going to reap regardless, because you've stayed focused on the task at hand. Verse 4 says, he that observeth the wind shall not sow, and he that regardeth the clouds shall not reap. So here it is. You see strong winds. You see the clouds bringing rain. You're like, oh, shit, let me go sit in the crib. Let me not tend to the land. Well, how are you going to reap? You didn't tend to the land. You didn't manage the land. You didn't It is going to be harder in the rain. You got wet soil, you got all, other stuff you got to deal with now. You got other tasks you got to deal with now. You got other shit on your plate that you have to manage now. But you can't use that as an excuse because you have a dutiful task. You have an obligation to uphold. So whatever, now that the job is made harder, guess what? Now you have to work even harder. And that's when, some people quit, some people don't make it, and they don't get to see the beautiful increase of thy hand, the beautiful fruit that comes from perseverance. All right. And staying diligent, even when these, these dangers or obstacles are put in the way of their work. Right. Verse 5, it says, "As thou knowest not what is the way of the Spirit, nor how the bones do grow in the womb of her that is with child, even so thou knowest not the works of Yahweh Bahashem Yahushua, who maketh all. In the morning sow thy seed, and in the evening withhold not thy hand, for thou knowest not whether shall prosper, either this or that, or whether they both shall be alike good. So in the morning sow thy seed, in the evening withhold not your hand, because you don't know what tomorrow brings. You don't know what today brings. You don't know, so stay dutiful in that task. Because no matter what happens, you're going to reap from that, from working towards that, all right? That goal that you set out to accomplish, all right? From there, let me get Galatians chapter 6. Galatians chapter 6, verse 9. Oh, no, I started verse 7. Galatians chapter 6, verse 7, it says, "Be not deceived, Yahweh Bashem Yahushua is not mocked. For whatsoever a man soweth, that shall he also reap." So the Lord is saying that he's not mocked. This is his word. Whatever you sow towards, you're going to reap. No matter what it is. Whether it's towards your physical job that you work in these corrupt businesses and under this corrupt system, or whether it's in the ministry of the Lord, all right, or whether it's to some type of skill or trade that you're working to accomplish and attain. The Lord said he set it up on the earth. When he created creation, this is how he set it up, that wherever you sow towards, that's where you're going to reap. Verse 8, "For he that soweth to his flesh shall of the flesh reap corruption. But he that soweth to the Spirit shall of the Spirit reap life everlasting. And let us not be weary in well-doing, for in due season we shall reap if we faint not." So we can't get weary, we can't get weak, we can't get lackadaisical, we can't get lukewarm, because you've been doing it for, umpteenth years, over a decade or whatever, a couple of decades, or, you got more obstacles in your way. You got more hardships that you have to confront. Still make sure you sow to that area constantly and diligently. For in due season you shall reap if you faint not. And that's the key. If you faint not. A lot of people faint before the time of the harvest arrives, because, it might have started off easy. Then as time progressed, it got harder and harder and harder. More things came on the forefront. More things to manage. All right? More distractions. There's no excuse, though. There's no excuse. Because the Lord doesn't deal with excuses. You read about the parable with a servant, the slothful servant, the wicked slothful servant, was trying to give excuses. And the Lord said, "Did you not know I was an austere man, taking up where I soweth not, reaping where I soweth not?" Oh, the Lord don't want to hear excuses, man. We have a dutiful task. We have an obligation to uphold. Okay? Let's go to the book of Sirach. Sirach chapter 7. And we're going to start at verse 15. It says, "Hate not laborious work, neither husbandry," and husbandry goes into farming, a farmer. "Hate not laborious work, neither husbandry, which the Most High have ordained." So if it's tedious, if it's hard work, Lord say, as a man, don't hate that. Be a man and overcome that. All right, get through that. That's how the Lord set it up. That it just said that's how He ordained it. So even though we don't like working, hey, that's the Lord set that up. Into the kingdom of heaven, you gotta work, you gotta toil. And even in the kingdom of heaven, even though we won't be toiling and slaving how we are right now, guess what? You're still gonna be building and creating and delegating and managing, right? It ain't gonna be like how it is on this side. But it's, the curse in Genesis says you should eat by the sweat of thy brow. It's a total different type of work and labor. But you're still going to have a sense of a labor in the sense of you're going to be building and creating and managing, You're still going to be, putting your hands to stuff, Kings just don't sit and eat all goddamn day. Well, not fruitful, righteous kings. They put their hands toward things so that fruit can produce. All right? That's how the Most High ordained the earth, ordained His creation. So you come into this ministry, you come into this labor force of the Lord, and things get tedious, things get hard. All right, guess what? Overcome that, deal with it, because you want to reap when harvest time comes. Correct. Let me stay in the book of Sirach, but let me go to the 6th chapter, and let me go down to verse 18. It says, "My son, gather instruction from thy youth up, so shalt thou find wisdom till thine own age. Come unto her as one that ploweth and soweth." So you come to wisdom as one that ploweth and soweth. "And wait for her good fruits." You got to wait for her fruit. Wait for what she's going to give to you. And that's not going to be on your time, and that's not going to be when you want it. You got to keep toiling and plowing and sowing until wisdom gives you what she's going to give you. For thou shalt not toil much in laboring about her, but thou shalt eat of her fruits right soon. She is very unpleasant to the unlearned. He that is without understanding will not remain with her. She will lie upon him as a mighty stone of trial, and he will cast her from him ere it be long. For wisdom is according to her name, and she is not manifest unto many. Right? And that's why you got to look at this as a gift. It's a gift that we have wisdom. But the only way and the scriptures say wisdom leadeth to a kingdom. But the only way to get that wisdom is if you sow towards it, you plow towards it, so that you can reap from it in due season. And that wisdom is going to bring you to the crown, to the scepter, to the rod of iron that you desire from the book of Revelation, to rule over these nations. Wisdom is going to lead you there, but you got to work for it first. All right? It's not just going to be freely given, because the Most High, all right, the King of Kings, Yahushua, Lord of Lords, they're not giving their sons, and Yahushua not giving his brothers, the joint rulership, the joint heirs. He's not giving it to lazy men. All right? They don't want spoiled brats on the throne. They want men who's able to lead and manage properly and dutifully and uphold their obligations, uphold their oaths, and keep their words, letting their yea be yea and their nay be nay. No excuses, no lukewarmness, not having to always be told the same thing over and over and over. All right? But working on themselves as men in seriousness and firmness. All right? From here, let's stay in the book of Sirach. Sirach is where you get that wisdom, man. Sirach chapter 38, all right? And let's start at verse 24. Let's go all the way down to verse 24. It says, "The wisdom of a learned man cometh by opportunity of leisure, and he that have little business shall become wise." So yeah, if you don't have a lot of business, you don't have a lot of work, you got a lot of time, you have more, if you have more time on your hands, guess what? You have more time to attain wisdom, to obtain the knowledge and wisdom and understanding of Yahweh Shem Yahushua. But that's only if you're a on fire man. and not lukewarm, because a lazy man, if he has more time, he's going to bullshit. He's going to sow to the flesh. He's going to sow to his lust. He's going to, be, doing shit that ain't got nothing to do with the ministry. He's going to be spending his money all over the place that has nothing to do with building himself up as a man. So, a fool, just because a fool has a lot of time don't mean he's going to become wise. All right? Verse 25, it says, how can he get wisdom that holdeth the plow? See, you still got to work for it. Can't be lazy. So during that time, even if you have more time, guess what? You got to plow. You got to plow harder. How can he get wisdom that holdeth the plow, and that glorieth in the gold that driveth oxen, and is occupied in their labors, and whose talk is of bullocks? He giveth his mind to make furrows, and is diligent to give the kind fodder. So every carpenter and workmaster that laboreth night and day, and they that cut and grave seals, and are diligent to make great variety, and give themselves to counterfeit imagery, and watch to finish a work. The smith also sitting by the anvil, and considering the iron work, the vapor of fire wasteth his flesh, and he fighteth with the heat of the furnace. The noise of the hammer and the anvil is ever in his ears, and his eyes look still upon the pattern of the thing that he maketh. He setteth his mind to finish his work, and watcheth to polish it perfectly. And that's how we got to do. We got to set our mind to finish the work and watch it to polish it perfectly, to watch our souls, to watch over, brothers, to, until we become that gold that is tried in the fire. You be able to see the Lord's image when you look, the Lord want to see his image when he looks at you. Verse 29, so doth the potter sitting at his work and turning the wheel about with his feet, who is always carefully set at his work, and maketh all his work by number. He fashioneth the clay with his arm, and boweth down his strength before his feet. He applieth himself to lead it over, and he is diligent to make clean the furnace. All these trust their hands, and everyone is wise in his work. Without these cannot a city be inhabited, and they shall not dwell where they will, nor go up and down. Yeah, a city cannot be inhabited. So the kingdom starts with the men, all right? The lively stones, all right? The book of Revelation says he saw New Jerusalem coming down, from heaven, like a bride adorning for her husband. It's the men, So the men have the men of the Lord that's been called into this ministry, like the scriptures say, unto you men are called. If the men ain't right, the city cannot be inhabited, period. Verse 33 says, they shall not be sought for in public council, nor sit high in the congregation. They shall not sit on the judge's seat, nor understand the sentence of judgment. They cannot declare justice and judgment, and they shall not be found where parables are spoken. But they will maintain the state of the world, and all their desire is in the work of their craft. And that's what we want to lead to. That's what we want to lead ourselves to. Maintaining the state of the world as kings, joint heirs with Hamashiach Yahushua. All right. And our desire being in the work of our craft. And our craft is this ministry, this doctrine, the brotherhood, building ourselves up in the labor of the Lord, this labor of love. So I wanted to touch on the dutiful task. We have a dutiful task, and there's no excuses. We have a dutiful task, and there's no excuses. Lord willing, this was edifying. Until the next time I say, Shalom.